This is Chris, the Idaho Painter, here on Paint Live TV. Today I got Sherry with me. She is the sanding expert here at Oneida, and we're going to be talking about three sanders that Oneida sells, and we also sell on Paint Life Supply Co. My favorite sander, the 3x4. I use the 5-inch sander, and I even use a 6-inch sander. When you would actually use these sanders, and I want Sherry, you to just talk a little bit about the inner workings of the sanders, what makes them so special and unique. So we'll just start off and give us some information about them.
Great, thanks, Chris. So basically, these sanders are all brushless sanders, and what that means is in the past, the electric sanders had brushes in them, right? And so as they run, the brushes are actually in here, and they actually start to wear down, and that's actually what makes the sander stop running. Now we've got going on to a brushless sander, right? So there's no brushes in here, and that means the life of the sander is much longer. So the other positive to these sanders are they're DC driven. And that happens in the handle. There's an inverter in the handle that switches it from AC to DC that allows you to be able to plug it into a AC plug, right? So it gives you a much longer life. There's three different sizes like you talked about. We got the 3x4, the 5-inch, and the 6-inch. The 5-inch, well, let's go back to the 3x4 first. The 3x4 I use mostly in the finish room. That's where I see the biggest advantage for the 3x4 because I'm using it with the sponges, and it gives me the longer life with the sponges, and it allows me to get in corner to corner. I'm not as concerned with swirls because I am using the sponges. It's less likely to give me swirls. If I'm sanding on raw wood, I'm going to go either with my 5-inch or my 6-inch. Again, it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm building cabinets, if I'm in a cabinet shop, I'm going to probably use my 5-inch. And the reason being, it's a little bit, you've got two different swaths. You got either a 3/16 swath or you got a 3/32 swath. And the 3/16 is a little bit more aggressive. The 3/32 is our finishing sander, right? So I'm going to use the 5-inch in a cabinet situation. If I'm finishing a large table, or if someone would call you about solid surface, I'm going to go to a 6-inch. And the reason I'm going to use a 6-inch is because it's a much bigger footprint. You can see the difference in the footprint just by putting the three of them together. This is a small footprint. It's going to cover a small area. This is going to cover a little bit bigger area because we've got that random pattern, bigger surface. And then, of course, the 6-inch is even bigger. So if you're doing a conference table or something to that effect, you want to use the 6-inch because we can get a lot more coverage and it can go through it much quicker.
And I notice all of them, they're variable speed.
Right.
Okay, and you can adjust them. There's a plus and a minus, and they're simple to adjust. Are they random orbit or direct drive sanders?
The 3x4 is a direct drive, so that means it's orbiting, but it's orbiting in a circle.
Okay.
No random pattern.
Okay.
These two are random orbitals. The 5-inch and the 6-inch are random orbitals, so you have a much wider swath and you have that rotation and that random pattern.
Okay. So you gave us some good scenarios where these would be used. I'll let you know, my audience, what I use each of them for, because I have all three of them. I use my 3x4. I do cabinet refinishing. I use my 3x4 for doing my cabinet refinishing. And typically I'm sticking with the 3x4 all of it. I also use 3x4, we repaint interior trim. So I'm using it to repaint interior trim hooked to my sander, so I'm not creating dust. I do refinish decks. So I use my 5-inch when I'm refinishing decks, exterior homes. So it's a little bit bigger, it's a little bit faster doing a deck than a little 3x4. I also do Venetian plaster. I use the 6-inch to polish Venetian plaster. I don't do it very often, but that's what I use the 6-inch for, because we're typically large walls of Venetian plaster, and I polish it, and it works excellent for Venetian plaster. So there's some tips and tricks, or some information about the sanders. Now, all three of them will hook up to their sanding system, Oneida sanding system, correct?
Yes, all three of them will come with you can add, if you get the sander and it doesn't have the vacuum port and you decide to add the vacuum later, it's a very easy fix. It's just changing out the shroud, adding the vacuum port, and you're ready to roll.
So you can take, if you have one that you purchase that has the vacuum port on it, you can take and eliminate it?
Yes.
And if you bought one without a vacuum port, you can add it.
Yes.
So that's really good to know. So if you made a mistake buying one or the other, you can completely change it or convert it in very simply and easily. So there's the 3 sanders. I love them. I use them all the time. By Unita. They're called the EcoSand. If you have any questions or comments about these sanders, how they're used, if you want to adapt them to different vacuums or whatever, I use it with Unita's vacuum system because it's absolutely amazing. Almost vacuums up 100% of the dust. But if you got any questions or comments about it, leave it in the comment section below. We would love to answer your questions as soon as we can get to them down in the comment section below. Thank you for being right here on Paint Live TV. We appreciate it, and we'll see you on our next video. Out.